Hi everybody. So in this video, we're going to look at finding the gradient of a straight line. And the gradient tells us how steep a line is and whether it's sloping upwards or downwards. So we calculate it as the change in y, this symbol here, this triangle symbol means changing. So the change in y divided by the change in x. So we'll work through a couple of examples and then we'll try some exam style questions. And if you want to work along with me, you can download a copy of this PDF from my website. I'll leave a link below. Okay, so we want to calculate the gradient of this straight line. So we need to pick 2 points, and we can pick any 2 points we like. I'm going to pick this point because you can see we've got integer coordinates of 4 and 12. So x is 4 and y is 12. And I'm going to pick the y-intercept where x is 0 and y is 4. So we can create it into a triangle, and then we can find the change in y, which is from the 4 when y equals 4, up this side, and then y equals 12. So the change in y will be 8. So the gradient, the change in y is 8. And then for the change in x, we always go in the positive direction for x. And you can see we're going across by 4. So the change in x is 4. So the gradient will be 8 divided by 4, which is 2. And what this tells us is that every time we move across by 1 in the x direction, we're moving up by 2 in the y direction. And this is constant throughout the straight line. Okay, let's try some more questions. So here we've got 3 straight lines, and we've been asked to work out the gradient of each. Do you want to try and work out the gradient of this first one? Okay, so we pick 2 points, any 2 points we like. I'm going to pick this point and this one. We can see the change in x from the 2 to the 5. The change in x is equal to 3. The change in y from the 3 to the 12, the change in y is going to be equal to 9. The 12 take away the 3. So the gradient is the change in y divided by the change in x. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. And you can see this tells us that every time we go across by 1 in the x, we go up by 3 in the y, okay? And again, this is constant throughout the straight line. So do you want to try the next 2 questions? Okay, so for the second one, we can pick 2 points. It's easiest to pick the y-intercept when it's an integer, and we can pick this point. You can see for the change in x, we're going from 0 to 6. So the gradient will be the change in y divided by 6. And then we're going from 6 to 12. But you can see that as we go positive in the x direction, we're going down in the y direction. So the change in y now is negative 6. So this will be negative 6 divided by 6. This will have a gradient of negative 1. And you can see how this works. If we go across by 1 in the x, we're going down by 1 in the y. So for our next one, we'll pick 2 points, this point and this point. You can see the change in x is from 2 to 6. So a gradient will be the change in y divided by 6 take away 2, so 4. And then the change in y is from 9 to the 7. And 9 take away 7 is 2, which simplifies to make 1/2. So you can see then, as we go across by 1 in the x, we're going up by a half. Okay? Let's try some more questions. So in these questions, we're going to find the gradient between two coordinates. So to work out the gradient, we go through the same idea. We find the change in x, which is from -2 to 4. And then the change in y, which is from -1 to +3. So the gradient will be the change in y, 3 take away the -1. So from here to here, divided by the change in x, 4 take away the -2. And when we subtract a negative, it becomes a positive. So we get 3 add 1 over 4 add 2. And then we can simplify this to make 2/3. Okay? So every time we go across by 1 in the x, we're going up by 2/3 in the y. We can also understand this as going across by 3 in the x. So 1, 2, 3. And then up by 2 in the y. Okay? For our next question, we need to work out the change in y. So between 5 and the 2. So the change in y will be 3. And then the change in x, which is from the -1 to the +7. So the change in x now is from -1 to 7, which is 8. So the gradient will be change in y divided by the 8, 3/8. Okay? Let's try 2 more questions. Okay, so in these questions, we've been given the gradient of a line, but we've been asked to work out one of the coordinates. So if I work through this one and you could try this one. Well, if we go through the same idea, we'll pick 2 points, this point at 0, -2, our y-intercept, and this point K10. Well, the gradient 3 will be the change in y, which is from the 10 to the -2. So the change in y is 12, divided by the change in x, which is from the k to the 0. So this will just be k. We can work out k by moving this to the left-hand side. So we get 3k will equal 12. Then we can divide both sides by a 3, and k will equal 4. So our coordinate here will be 4, 10. Okay? So you want to try this question and work out the value of p? You can pause the video and come back when you're ready. Okay, so welcome back. So we keep to the same idea. The gradient will be the change in y divided by the change in x. And we're told that the gradient is 4. Now the change in y will be the difference between the 7 and the p. These are both the y values. So we'll have 7 take away p. And the change in x will be the difference between the -2 and the -4. So -2 minus the -4. And when you subtract a negative, it becomes a positive. So we get 4 will equal 7 minus p over 2. This is the -2 plus 4. We'll move a 2 to the left-hand side. This becomes 8 equals 7 minus p. We can move a -p over to the other side, so it becomes positive. So 8 plus p will equal 7. So p must equal -1. Okay? Well, I hope that's given you an idea on how to work out the gradient of a straight line. If you found that helpful, please like and subscribe. And you can download the full lesson and the PDF that accompanies this video from my website, mrmathematics.com. I'll leave a link below.